What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and on this video I'm going to be talking about how you guys can identify market trend. Alright, so we have three different ways of what a market trend is, right? We have the uptrend, we have the downtrend, and we have the consolidation trend. Alright, I'm going to show you guys on how to mark up the trend, and I'm going to show you guys how you can identify it on the 1, the 4, and the daily, right? But so let's get started. Alright, so right here I'm gonna show you guys first is the uptrend. All right, so market is going to be moving like this on its way to the uptrend. Okay, just like that, right? This is going to be a higher high, this is going to be a higher low. Okay, this is a higher high, higher low, higher low, higher high. And if you're wondering, oh, why is this called a higher high? Because this high is higher than this previous high. This higher low is higher than this previous low. Okay, so yeah, so on and so forth. That is basically what it is. This is going to be a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. All right, that is how you are going to mark up your uptrend. All right, now I'm gonna show you guys the downtrend. All right, this is going to be your lower high. This is going to be your lower high. This is going to be your lower low. Same thing for this one. Lower high, lower low. Lower high, lower low. Right, and so on and so forth. Right, so that is basically on how you are going to identify the downtrend. Right, this is a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Right, because this low is lower than this previous high, this low is lower than this previous high, this low is lower than this previous low, this low is lower than this previous low. All right, that's basically the uptrend, and this is the downtrend. Right, we have higher highs, higher lows for the uptrend, we have lower highs, lower lows for the downtrend. All right, now we have the consolidation trend. Okay, consolidation trend is basically when the market is going nowhere. Okay, it's just bouncing off. All right, so this is the consolidation trend. Okay, price is just moving side to side, going absolutely nowhere. Yes, you can make money off of this, but honestly, if you have a consolidation trend on your pair, I recommend not trading that pair, because price is just gonna go up and down. You're not really gonna be catching huge moves unless you wait for a breakout, but that breakout either has to consider on the 4 or the 1 hour, right? For me, okay, because if you're on the lower time frames, right, we identify market trend on the higher time frames, and if you identify on the lower time frames, you could get faked out just like that, right? So if you're going to be trading a consolidation trend, right, you want to wait for that breakout to the upside or downside, either which one, and that's where you can start trading, right? So the consolidation trend is going to be moving side to side, right? Recommended not to be trading any pair that has the consolidation trend, right? So once it breaks, either price can retest, right, back to this, right, this is, so I guess you could call it a floor. I call it a floor and a roof, a floor and a roof. Okay, this is basically my roof, this is my floor, right? Once it breaks through that roof, it becomes a floor. Okay, retests that floor and creates an uptrend, right? Consolidation can do that. Consolidation trend breaks through that roof, becomes your floor, retests it back, and that is when you can execute your trade. That's when you can execute your trade, yeah, and then it starts creating higher highs and higher lows, right? And then we have also, it's the same thing if it goes to the downside, right? Breaks the floor, becomes your roof, and then starts creating the downtrend. All right. Typically like that, right? So this is basically the consolidation trend, right? I recommend not trading this. Just stick to the uptrend or the downtrend. But if you guys can catch a trade of a breakout where it breaks either through your floor or roof, you can actually execute a trade like that and just wait for that retest. Okay. But let me show you guys on the real chart. Let me delete all this. And also, guys, whenever price can also be doing this, right? So we have a downtrend, right, creating lower lows, lower highs. And then once you guys start to see consolidation, we might be looking for a market shift going towards the upside. Okay, that is basically market shift. Okay, you guys can see price being on a downtrend and then start consolidating and then creating break of structure going to the upside, right? And how are you going to identify break of structure? So basically, we are going to mark its previous lower high, which is right here. And then we also have the consolidation trend, the one that I just talked about. Okay. So, right, we have lower highs and lower lows, right? Price started consolidating, making that push, breaking through that, making the push to the upside, breaking this this roof, right? Never retested, let's say never retested, right? But it breaks this lower high. This is called break of structure. This is break of structure. Okay, so as you guys can see, we have the downtrend. We have the downtrend. Okay, we have the downtrend, consolidated, broke through this floor, right, and then breaking this lower high, right? What it started doing? Creating a higher high, higher low, higher high, so on and so forth, right? That is break of structure. It is going to be the same thing for if it's an uptrend going to a downtrend, right? And then you could just see price doing this. Doesn't always have to consolidate. It doesn't have to. All right. All you gotta do is just mark that previous higher low whenever it's going to a downtrend, right? So like right here we have an uptrend. This is going to be your higher low. Okay, you mark this up. You mark your most recent higher low, waiting for that break of structure, knowing so you can identify that we are going to a downtrend, right? So as you guys can see here, we broke structure right here to the downside. This is going to be your break of structure, right? We're on an uptrend, right? Higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. You mark up your recent higher low, right? Soon price started stopped going to the upside, stopped creating higher highs and higher lows. So price became to go down and breaking this higher low, creating a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right? That is basically break of structure as well, right? That is market trends and break of structure. Those are very important so you guys can identify the trend, know where price is going to go, and so on and so forth, right? So I identify market trend on the 4 hour. You can identify market trend on the daily, but me personally, I identify on the 1 and the 4 hour. All right, so right here, let me show you guys an example. Boom, right here. All right, we have this higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then we have a higher high, right? Price is never gonna look pretty like how I just showed you an example of. No, price is gonna be looking like this, right? Especially in the big 2025 because of Trump. Trump is moving this price action really horrible. So right now, price isn't looking as clean, but yes, that is how you're going to identify the uptrend, right? It's never gonna look clean as how I showed you an example of me with the arrows, right? No, it's going to be like this, right? We have this high, higher low, higher high, higher low, right? Because this higher low is higher than this previous low. This higher low is higher than this previous low, and so on and so forth. Okay, this higher high is higher than this previous high. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay. All right, let me show you guys an example of the downtrend. All right, so right here, what do you guys see? We have the downtrend right here, right? We have this lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right? Simple as that. That is how you're going to identify the trend for an uptrend and the downtrend, all right? Like I said, price is never going to look pretty how I showed you on the arrows, but you can identify it as clear as day in the 1 and the 4 hour, okay? I identify on the 1 and the 4 hour. Why? Because I'm a scalp trader. I think identifying on the daily seems like it's never going to go. How do I say this? How do I put it? So like the daily is the highest time frame, right? That's basically the higher time frame. Okay, we have the 4 and the 1 hour, okay? The daily, I'm a scalper. I trade on the 5 minute. I have to identify it between the 1 and the 4, basically on the past week, okay? So that's why we cut off our screen and we identify the trend, okay? So if you guys are going to identify the trend, you go to the daily, and as you guys can see, we're on an uptrend. But if you go to the 4 hour, you don't see all these candles, okay? This was the sell off right here, sell off right here, right? That's what I'm saying. Yes, you can identify kind of almost the same, but not really, right? That's why we cut off our screen and we focus on what we see on the past recent weeks. Okay, we don't want to look for what happened the last 5 months, 6 months. No, because look, if I show you my whole screen, this is all the way from October 2024. We're in June 2025. No, I just want to see what's been going on since May. Yeah, basically. Okay, so on the 1 hour, we have that downtrend, right? Let me show you guys. I mean, on the 4 hour, we have that downtrend. On the 4 hour, we have this downtrend, right? It's basically on the 1 hour as well. Okay, we're creating lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. Why? Because this this low is lower than this previous high. Okay, this low is lower than this previous lower high. Okay, and so on and so forth, right? And then as you guys can see here, right, price started consolidating. Okay, price started consolidating, really not going anywhere. Started creating higher low, higher high, right? A little bit. But what do you guys see here? We don't have a break of structure. Okay, like I said, you have to mark up that recent lower high in order for it to break it, and it never broke. It broke until May 11th. Okay, it broke all the way to here, so we can clearly see that we've been going on an uptrend. Okay, right? So we were going on this downtrend. Price started coming up. Okay, it was consolidated, but it was making its way up, but it never broke this lower high, right? So that doesn't mean that we're going on an uptrend, right? As you guys can see here, market dumped again. Okay, and then what do you guys see here? Okay, price did come down, right? And then as you guys can see here, when price came down, creating lower lows and lower highs again, lower low, right? Price created this lower high, but it never broke this lower low. Okay, so let me be more clear. Okay, so we're on this downtrend, creating lower lows and lower highs. Okay, all right, price decided to consolidate, but it was consolidating its way up. Okay, we mark our previous lower high. Like I said, if you want to identify a break of structure, you have to mark up either your previous lower high or your higher high. So if you're going on an uptrend and it's gonna go on a downtrend, you have to mark up that previous higher low. Sorry about that. It's a previous higher low. All right. If you're going on a downtrend, you want to mark up your previous lower high and waiting for that break of structure, breaking that lower high. But price never broke this lower high. Okay. So let me show you. Price never broke this lower high, right? So price never broke this lower high, right? So what did price do? And it continued to keep going down, right? Breaking all of these higher lows, right? So it's consolidating, creating higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, right? But it didn't break this high lower high, right? Market continued to go down, okay? But the reason why I'm saying this is a higher high, higher low, why? Because as you guys can see here, this was your most recent lower low. Okay, it created this lower high. Right, so lower high, lower low, lower high. But what about this? This never broke that lower high. Okay, so I mean that's lower low. Sorry about that. Price never broke this lower low. Okay, so price never broke this lower high. Price never broke this lower low. Right, to continue to go on a downtrend. Right, price started going its way up. Right, so what did it do? It broke this lower high right here, this most recent lower high. It did break this one, continue to go to the upside little by little, but once price never broke this lower high, continued to break all the way down, and then that's when it broke all these higher lows. Okay, so all these higher lows had been broken and creating this lower low, lower high, lower low. All right, same thing for here. This is going to be your lower low. This is going to be your higher low. I mean your lower high. Sorry about that. Okay. So this was your lower high, right? This was your other lower high, but it broke. This one did get breaking, creating higher highs, higher lows, right? Price never broke this lower low, so we couldn't continue to go on a downtrend, right? We did continue to go on a uptrend little by little, but then as soon as price never broke this other lower high, right? That's when market decided to continue going down, breaking all of these higher lows. So like I said, it broke all these higher lows, creating break of structure to continue going down, right? And then let me show you guys right here, right? Like I said, we continue to go down. This was your lower low. This was your lower high. Okay, lower low, lower high. What did price do? It never broke this lower low, creating a another lower low. Instead, price broke this most recent lower high, right, creating its way to the upside. Okay, so right, lower low, lower high. Never broke this lower low, creating lower lows and lower highs. Instead, price did break this most recent lower high, making it a high. Okay, so now this is going to be your high, higher low, right? And then what did price do? Like I said, it's never going to be pretty, right? There could be retests, there could be pullbacks and things like that, right? But what did we do? We continued to go up, breaking this higher high. Okay, we did break this higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, right? Simple as that. Okay, that is so simple. It is simple as that, right? Break of structure, right? Breaking this lower high or previous lower high, okay, and things like that, right? Now let me show you guys for an uptrend. Okay, we have this uptrend right here. Okay, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then we have this higher high. Okay, right? You're going to target your most recent higher high. Okay, so it was right here. This was your higher high. Okay, what did it do? Had this higher low. Okay, so this is your higher low, and this is your most previous higher low. Price never broke this higher high, right? Price never broke this higher high, but it created this higher low. Okay, so like I said, you're going to see where your higher high and higher low is, and you're going to mark those up, right? So if it continues to break this higher high, like I said, we're going to continue to go on an uptrend, right? But if it breaks this higher low, that is a sign that we are going on a downtrend. Okay, so like I said, price broke this. This is going to be your higher. This is going to be your higher low, and price broke this, and now we are going on a downtrend, and that is when you're going to see that we have created lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and so on and so forth. that is going to be break of structure and market trends. Okay, this is very important for you to know in the market, right? You have to identify this on the 4 hour and the 1 hour. You have to see where price is going, right? You don't want to go against the trend, right? If you go against the trend, you're basically you're going to be asking for an L, a big fat L, a slap in the face, right? You guys don't want that. You want to follow the banks. You want to follow whoever is controlling these markets. You have to follow them, right? You're like, okay, they're eating the pie, bro, and you're just picking up the little crumbs. You're like the retail traders, right? So, right, we don't control the markets. We don't control the trend, right? All we have to do is follow it. And this is how you're going to follow it. Identifying higher highs, higher lows. Identify what is break of structure, when is break of structure going to happen. Like I said, you have to mark these things up in order for you to know where the trend is going, so you guys don't go against the trend, so you guys won't go against the trend. But other than that, that is how you're going to identify it. Okay, I have a step by step on my course. Okay, if you guys want to purchase it, if not, you could just join the free Discord. Okay, and other than that, you can also buy the $40 month one, which is me just giving signals every single day, so you guys could take wins with me, right? And then, but yeah, and if you guys want to yeah, you guys could just join my free Discord. I could text you on there as well. Okay, but that is how you're going to identify the trend. If you guys want a little bit more guidance, then you can just purchase my course and buy the $40 month one, and that is when I'm going to be talking to you guys personally. If you guys have any questions, right? But other than that, guys, that is how you're going to identify the trends and break of structure. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the other video.